Bobby Charlton, well done, Manchester United.
It's a Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it! And the South saved it! United again! Renee! A magnificent goal by Robin van Persie!
Hello and welcome to United Hour, your official Red Cafe podcast for all things Manchester United. I'm your host this week, Jamie.
I'm Colm.
And I'm Alex.
Yeah, and we're recording moments after full time, after the Paris Saint-Germain game.
Woo!
And as you might be able to tell, we're trying to be a bit more frequent for these podcasts, getting them released immediately after the games, and we hope you guys are enjoying that. And if you are, we wouldn't mind if you were able to just go and give us a wee 5-star review on iTunes or on Spotify and help bring our overall rating up. That would be much appreciated.
Shower streams with Colm for any 5-star reviews. Right, Colm, right? That's right?
Yeah.
That's what you said?
Yeah.
Nice.
So guys, I think it's fair to say we're absolutely over the moon.
Oh, delighted. Yeah, well happy.
What are your immediate thoughts, Colm? What do you take away from that?
I'm just so delighted. It's hard, doing these immediate after things is very new for us, and I do echo what you say. I hope the listeners are appreciative, but it's hard sometimes to gather your thoughts so immediately afterwards. But I'm just so pleased. I think the main takeaway I have is that we absolutely deserve to win that game.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of big wins under Ole against big teams. It's been a hallmark of his tenure. A lot of them have come in less than convincing circumstances that you leave behind because you won the game, and with the squad that we have and sometimes the moments that we're in, that's all you need and that's all you can expect. And a lot of time it was kind of Indiana Jones hat under a closing door stuff when we were winning these big games, but I don't think you can say that about tonight. That's a Champions League finalist, and we have come with a plan, executed it perfectly to a man, performed extremely well and beaten them well, and probably should have had more goals. So the buzz is unreal right now, but the big takeaway is that it was deserved, and that's an indicator of the level we should be at and can be at.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, like for me, basically, like completely agree with that sentiment. We've had a number of those wins under Ole. As Colm said, not always the most convincing, and for me, it always felt that we were never really in control of a lot of those games. And sometimes there were some fantastic individual performances, and with those individual performances, maybe it would become deserved. But today, it was more about all-round performance from almost every individual on the pitch who I thought, did extremely well. And, it was a tactically astute performance. And it was one where, there were ebb and flows of the game where maybe, they had a little bit more control. But I think for the most part, you would say that we were comfortable and the game was going how we would want it to go, and how Ollie would want it to go. I don't know if you guys would agree with that. And that's something that we haven't really seen. I think one of my biggest concerns was that Ollie's pragmatic big wins, I was worried that they might disappear. Since Bruno has come in, since we've tried to be a little bit more on the front foot, something that we want and would encourage Ole to do, it felt like he then went to this halfway house in these big games where he wasn't really sure whether to set us up to be, defensively sound, and then focus on the counter-attack and quick transitions or a high press, or whether he, felt that we needed to try and be on the front foot and really implement our style. And today it felt like, as Colm said, we went with a plan. It was very controlled in possession. We seemed to know what we were doing. We were taking advantage of breakaways when we got them, but we were also pressing high up the pitch. We were also quite methodical in some of our play when moving it forward. And I just really appreciated that we were actually controlling the tempo and dictating the ebb and flow of the game, which is something that I just haven't really seen. And to do that away from home, yes, with no fans, but still away from home at Champions League finalist is, fantastic. So, hats off to Ollie and to the team, really. It was great stuff. And let's be fair, in this group, incredibly important. Like, it massively changes the context of the group that we're in, I think, moving forward, and how people feel about our chances getting out of that group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was an excellent performance. Before the game, I don't know about you guys, but I thought a draw would be an excellent start to the group. just considering normally on the face of it you would look at it and say that PSG game away, that's probably our most difficult game, maybe arguable with Leipzig in the group as well, but I certainly looked at the Paris Saint-Germain game and thought this is going to be the most difficult game, get a point out of this, and we're off to a decent start. But I kind of agree with both of you guys. Throughout the first 25-30 minutes, yeah, we managed the kind of initial blitz, if you like, from PSG. There was a couple of moments where De Gea made a couple of good saves, but after that I just thought we controlled the game. Right up until their equaliser, I thought we were totally in control.
Yeah.
We were picking and choosing the moments when to break. We weren't trying to overplay it. It was just clever passes, whether it was through the middle, down the side, like we saw Rashford getting away a few times. And I was really, really pleased with the performance. And I know you concede an own goal, and I mean, it was really disheartening to concede the own goal at the time. But apart that aside, I thought most players, maybe Martial was maybe a bit poor, but even he contributed by winning the penalty. I thought every player really was at least very good, ranging to excellent.
I think one of the things that stood out for me was it was just a really good game of football. You know, it was a really good game to watch. Both teams were playing well. I don't think PSG were playing as well as they could, and PSG are a bit like that. Sometimes you don't know what way they're going to turn up. Obviously, they have a few notable injuries, probably Marquinhos and Verratti the most, which we should give credence to that. But it was just a good game of football. It had a really nice shape to it. We had our plan, they had their plan. And it just looked like it was going to come down to who could get the most out of their attack and who, I suppose, was wanting it more. And I think that's the area of the game where we really, dominated them, essentially. I mean, that was clearly evidence from the start. They didn't just seem up for it, and we seemed absolutely about our work. You know, like a Fred McTominay in the middle, just as they did, whatever it is, a year and a half, 2 years ago now. A very similar performance of just really out combating that midfield in just a dominating way, and it was just such a good game. Even at halftime, I thought, look, even if Mbappe scores a wonder goal or Neymar pulls something out, this is respectable. We are in this game, we are playing well, we have our plans. So whatever way it turns out, whether that's an own goal and a draw, whether it's some kind of late magic and Neymar wins it, or whether it's like happened and we took our chances, I would have just been happy with that performance because it was just better than what I've seen in a long time. It was really, really, really good.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was an excellent performance, and I don't know about you guys, but when Rashford banged that in, I literally jumped out my chair and punched the air. I think it's the first time I've done that in a while, but I was so happy, man. I do think, as I said, I thought practically every player contributed in some way and was excellent from start to finish. So I think the easiest way to do it would be just to run through every player and we can just give our thoughts on each player.
It's a great idea, Jamie.
Jamie, what a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. Yeah. So starting from the back, De Gea. Alex, on you go. What was your assessment of De Gea tonight?
Oh, he had a great game, didn't he? I don't feel that.
You can hear the reluctance in your voice, Alex.
This is coming from you.
I'll take my medicine next. Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind.
No, to be honest, this season, even before today, it felt that he had somewhat responded to basically to Henderson's return, to a bit of pressure on his spot. Something that, even though Romero was a good keeper, I don't think there was really any conviction, in a case where he would come in and replace De Gea in the league. And I think with Henderson coming back, I think that's changed things. And, to me, it's felt like he's responded. It's obviously only early days. Let's see what happens. See what happens when he maybe does make a mistake and what comes from that and how he responds. But anyway, so far this season, he's been solid and had a good season. Tonight was tremendous. It was one of those games where there was multiple really good saves, but they were kind of saves that you would think De Gea should be making, a keeper of that quality, the best paid keeper in the world. But would the De Gea of last season necessarily saved all those? Maybe, but not so sure. But he really stepped up to the plate. A lot of them came in really important moments. I think for each save that he made, it brought a little bit more confidence to the team, a little bit more confidence to the defence, but also, was a bit more frustration to PSG, who, with each of those chances that they weren't able to convert, it seemed that they would resort to more difficult chances, longer range shots, and overcomplicating play. Whilst they were all saves that you would maybe expect him to make, he's still got to make them. He's still got to get everyone exactly right, and he did. And you can't really ask for more than that. There was also a moment where he was off his line and and ready to come out and make a clearance from a breakaway, which should be standard, but for De Gea it hasn't really been. So yeah, it was great. And I mean, for me, clearly, it's the response to Henderson coming in was that he stopped pissing about with his hairstyle, and he's gone for something really basic. And we know from Paul Pogba over the last few years that I'm joking. Obviously, it makes no fucking difference. But anyway, he's responded well. He had a great game tonight, and I think that those saves that he made were of huge importance, to the confidence of the team, to the frustration of PSG, as well as just obviously keeping out a goal. So yeah, great game.
Yeah, in my pre-match build-up today, I was just I was thinking about the game all day, and part of that was that I went back and watched the highlights of that 3-1. Ole's won it at the end, whatever the quote is, and I was watching it back. I got to 5 minutes 10 in the highlights package, and I'd completely forgotten about this moment in that game. But it was after we'd scored what was the decisive goal in the end, and PSG were pumping on the pressure, and a big loopy ball came into his box, and it was the most catchable, collectible ball you'd ever likely to see. And he sort of came out and half punched it, half shouldered about 2 yards away to a PSG player. Yeah. And I sent that into every single Manchester United related WhatsApp and some unrelated WhatsApps that I was in today, and highlighted 5 minutes 10 and give De Gea a bit of abuse in essentially all those. And it's important to be fair. And, I have been a big critic of David De Gea lately, and I feel justified in it, and this doesn't, make amends or completely change any of my opinions really, but you have to give credit where credit is due, particularly when the things that he's done well tonight are the things that I probably most frequently lambast him for. The point blank saves and the kind of Hollywood stretched out saves that kind of are made to look harder than they are. That's bread and butter for De Gea. And although a few times lately he has been letting those slip in, broadly speaking, you're always going to get those reflexes. You're always going to get that shot stop. The big massive issues that I've had for such a long time, I think he exhibited tonight that he actually can do on occasion, and I hope regularly. And those are be vocal and be a leader. That was a back three of Shaw, Axel Tuanzebe and Victor Lindelof. Lindelof shaky sometimes at the best of times. Axel his first start in a year, probably more, and a young, 19, 20, making his first steps in a massive game. And then Shaw, who's a left back, fairly well experienced, but maybe not a leader and not used to playing in that kind of system. It would have been very easy for that three to kind of crumble and see mistakes and not be on the same wavelength. I thought De Gea did a great job of kind of stitching that together. Another thing he did was make those quick decisions and actually come off his line and play balls out or come and take them and relieve that pressure, and that made a huge difference in a lot of situations, particularly when you have Mbappe coming through. And then the final thing was his feet. His distribution was extremely good. I think the wide fullbacks really helped De Gea because he's very able to find that sort of paying out ball, and that PSG found it really difficult to pick up Telles and Wan-Bissaka without kind of compromising their own shape. So he was constantly giving that out ball, and I think that system really helped De Gea, and he was fantastic. So, credit to him. Hopefully the next hurler comes soon enough and we can all jump back on the wagon of slating him again. But for the time being, that was superb.
But regarding De Gea, I thought it was much improved, and I think he's actually, over the last few games, he has been getting better and better in terms of, okay, he's nowhere near yet the standard of what we know he can play at. But compared to, as you said, Alex, the last 12 months, 18 months, it is much better. The first save he made tonight, I kind of agreed with McManaman on commentary. It's one of those, you think it's a good save, you see the replay and you're like, actually, that's pretty standard. But the one after that, it was in the 6th minute, the ball comes in, and it's like a really quick reflex where he manages to turn his body, blocks it. The one from... It
was that he then gathered it, wasn't it?
It was the gather, and
it pulled it back in.
It was very much like that one he rolled out to Luke Shaw the other day where against Newcastle, where the Callum Wilson chance where he stopped it with a strong palm but also pushed it into the path of Luke Shaw. Those two, for me, obviously dipping back to the Newcastle game there, but those were excellent saves. Saves.
Yeah, I also like the one from Mbappe, because Mbappe done really well, to be fair to him, when he danced into the box. I think it was McTominay and maybe Fred, I think he beat, and he just leathered a shot that was destined for the far side, and he didn't just kind of stop it and then put it back into the box. He manages to turn it around the post, and that kind of goes with what you're saying, Colm. He doesn't just save it and just put it anywhere. It's one of those, he just gets rid of it, get it round the post, get it out for a corner, deal with it. And I just think he's been much improved. His distribution has been excellent as well. And it wasn't just his kicking. I thought there was a few times where he's gathered the ball well, and instead of just kicking it aimlessly, he's looking, and then he's even just one of those like scoop passes like over the head, just playing it wide. Just get the ball out wide, just get to the man and free.
I wonder if Maguire and Matic not being there to try and command and ask for it for the short, straight ball that we see so often kind of go wrong or bring pressure onto us. I wonder if not having them there sort of helped with that.
Well, I think it's a few things. I don't think PSG pressed us at all. That front three, Di Maria, Mbappe and Neymar, immense quality, not that interested in putting in the work. I didn't really see any kind of press on us. So straight away, I think that helps. Every team in the Premier League will pretty much press us high and press us well. Newcastle didn't, suffered for it, but 9 out of 10 teams in the Premier League won't give us that kind of space.
Yeah.
And that, without any quality, not even getting into how good you are as a footballer, just by putting in those hard yards and hassling our defence, you will change how we're able to build it up. And another thing I think, as I mentioned, is just the back five. I think it gives them much more options. A back five with Fred and McTominay in front of that, that's like a big cozy blanket. Do you know what I mean? For all those players back there, it's very stable, it's very secure. The wing backs actually suited. Tellez, we'll get onto him, but I thought he looked fantastic. They suited, and they're able to pick up those sort of half positions just before the halfway line, really, really, really wide. But you still have those three players around the box to play with, plus two centre defensive mids dropping in to help you out. So very difficult to press that, even for a good pressing team, which PSG aren't. So I think it's a combination of all those things, but you still have to give credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a very good performance from De Gea, so hopefully he keeps that up. The next guy I want to talk about has to be Tuanzebe, because that was as an impressive performance I've seen from any player, considering the circumstances. What was it, 12 months out or something? Maybe not as long as that, maybe 11 months, but to come back in and be as composed as that in the middle of the back three was excellent, was absolutely excellent. I mean, the two times he absolutely schooled Mbappe, where he's running back with him, and it's not panicking at all. It's just how you want your defender to defend. It's just ease the attacker out the way, gather the ball in, and then either turn it back to your goalie, start again, or turn away with the ball and play on. It was superb performance from Tuanzebe. I think I'd probably pick him as my man of the match, to be honest.
Yeah, he was incredibly composed, made the right decisions every time. I think just having a name like Axel automatically gives you like additional strength and pace.
Guns N' Roses fan, right?
Exactly right. He looks like a big Guns N' Roses fan. I can imagine.
He needs to get rid of that beard. It's not quite grown in yet.
But in fairness, we've always known that he's, obviously got immense talent. He's incredibly composed. Living in the Midlands, I know a lot of Aston Villa fans who said that season that he was there on loan in the Championship before he got injured. He was fantastic. And they were all, even back then when he must have been 19, I guess, maybe 20, he was saying that, he was as good as the centre-back that was starting for United at that point. And I guess not too much has changed on that front. And that, he definitely had seemingly the capability to really go and make it, and a huge ceiling ahead of him. And I think whenever he's come in, for the most part, he's shown, that sort of composure. I've always found that with young kids who've got potential, games like this where they're kind of forced to be focused and concentrated, and they're up against the best players in the world, can often help them, and it's a good platform for them to show, to really showcase their ability. And I think you also have to give credit to Lindelof next to him and De Gea behind him for that marshalling and helping talk through the game. Not that it seemed like he needed a great deal of it, in fairness. Great performance, I agree.
Unbelievable performance, and actually looked really calm and tidy on the ball, not shy of making a little kind of inverted pass or stepping out with it a little bit. So he looked spot on. I think I just pray and hope that he stays fit. I mean, that is just the big thing with Axel. We just want to see him and see him and see him. I mean, I'd start him, at the weekend if he's totally fit and doesn't have any knocks from the game or anything like that. I think the other thing it showed is that having genuine pace in the back line is an absolute game changer for us, in a way that, you did see it with Bailly, and you always wanted it, but with Bailly, he's, and I don't mean to be harsh to him, but he's kind of the antithesis of Axel in that he has that same pace, but it's so much more, breakneck and clumsy sometimes, and you just don't necessarily feel as assured as you do with Axel. I mean, him running back with Mbappe versus Axel running back with Mbappe as it went, it's hard to imagine those two instances going the same if it's by. And that's just a big game changer to have that, to be able to play that high line and still have those instances where number one, De Gea is coming off the line, and number two, you have this absolutely rapid but controlled and powerful and quality centre back to be able to go back with a fast attacker would be a huge plus for the way we want to play football. And I just want to see him play. I really hope he stays injury free.
Yeah, I agree. I think, as you were saying there, his composure was just excellent throughout the game. I would really like to see him, if he's fit enough, and hopefully he does stay fit. I would love to see him start against Chelsea in the next game. I absolutely would not be dropping him. He would be straight in that team for me. Alex, you were right as well, though. A lot of credit has to go to Lindelof, because I thought Lindelof was very good tonight.
He was, to be honest, and well, I don't want to make the whole rest of the podcast pointless, but it felt like that whole back line and the two in front of them were all really solid and all had really good games for differing reasons. But yeah, he was obviously the main man tonight, and it was seemingly faultless.
Yeah, I genuinely can't think of an error or even a moment, a misplaced pass, anything.
Or like something where you think he could have done that differently, or he could have taken more really control of that situation, or he was
not really at all. Yeah. And I think the 3 suits him again. I was listening to the pod the other day, and they kind of singled him out as at fault for the Newcastle goal, because he stepped out 40 yards right up to the halfway line, got beaten by Colm Wilson, able to hold it up, and then suddenly they're in behind us. And the back 3, and also the fact that we're playing PSG and kind of sitting a bit deeper inherently, means that he doesn't have to do that. And even if he does, there's maybe an extra player there covering in kind of thing, and Fred and McTominay were given a lot more as a shield. And I think that helps him, but again, this is about us marrying up the best system to our players, where often I think we've tried to just mush players into our desired system in terms of this 4-2-3-1. It hasn't always worked. And I think that's really apparent. And I'm not saying we should play this formation every single game, because you won't always be playing PSG where this formation was perfectly suited to really attack them, but it did make a lot of players look a lot more comfortable, and Lindelof was certainly the beneficiary of that. But a fantastic performance. He's a very cerebral defender. He's a very intelligent defender. He can be so frustrating with his lack of physicality and his decision making at times, but again, with a lot of these performances, you just hope there's some consistency that's eked out of it, because we've had these false dawns before with these players, but you can only revel in it tonight.
Moving on to Shaw, I actually thought Shaw looked far more suited to that back left position on the left hand side of the 3. I thought that's where he actually looks quite solid. Did you think that, Colm? Did you think that's where we should be?
I did. I did think that, and that's not to say I don't think he ever looks uncomfortable at left back. I think at left back sometimes he struggled to develop any meaningful relationships with the players in front of him and really get the quality that he has extracted, the quality that you saw at Saints, the quality that you see in fits and starts. You see him go on these mazy runs and play these little 1-2s, and then you realise that he hasn't had an assist in like 4 years, or he's had 1 or like 3 goal contributions over the last 4 years. Aaron Wan-Bissaka has more, which tells you all you need to know, because he's a bomb scorer going forward as well. It's the two things don't marry up. There's an eye test with Shaw, which you look at, you think is so neat and tidy, really combative, small and stocky and strong, good athlete and good defensively, and you just think, why are you not a better left back for us? What has been the issue? Is it a mentality issue? Was it the leg break? Is it the players in front of you? I know Martial and Rashford sometimes don't seem like the easiest players or the easiest system to kind of have an overlapping left back, and even tactically, I think we don't ask the right things of our fullbacks. We don't coach them in the right ways sometimes. But even in the games last year when we played 5 at the back, we quickly saw that he has the height, he has the defensive nous for that position, and he will not let you down as a centre back. I don't think he also has really, really good recovery pace. And also when he does start to come out with the ball, he's brilliant with the ball to his feet in kind of these triangle situations, which is great. But he also actually seems better moving through the middle of the pitch than moving down the flank. And I don't really know why that is, but he's much more able to drive through the middle of the pitch and pick up these sort of 1-2s with Bruno and Pogba and someone out wide, but not just, I think, be pigeonholed into that kind of, I'll just stand behind Rashford thing, which we see so much of. So the only shame of it is we aren't going to play a 3 at the back every week, I don't think. I think that'd be quite radical. There's maybe a decent argument for seeing it much more than we do, particularly with now the full-back talent we have beside Shaw. But, I'm a big fan of his, and I just want to see more productivity at the end of the day, because his production numbers are just in stark comparison to what I see as good, consistent performances.
At the start of the game, it did feel like he was trying to figure out where to go and where to stand with Tellez, particularly going forward. Like, it felt like they were on top of each other a little bit, particularly in those very early moments. So that's quite natural. You would expect to see an element of that. But his defensive play, there were a couple of moments with loose balls in the box that he just tidied up. Very calm, simple play back to De Gea that, could have otherwise been nervy moments, and in other games maybe have turned into nervy moments. And that's the thing, like, those moments just didn't come today because everyone was so on it and making the right decision. And I mean, the one thing that it actually wasn't this game; it was the game at the weekend. You had Aaron Wan-Bissaka scoring against Newcastle and celebrating his 50th appearance for Manchester United. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who joined us in 2019.
Yeah.
You then had Luke Shaw celebrating his 100th appearance for Manchester United after joining us in 2014, which I think, says a hell of a lot. It doesn't feel, as much as we've known that Shaw's had quite a lot of injuries and missed a lot of football, that he's only played double the games as Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka's been here a year and he's been here 6. Just, makes no sense to me at all.
I mean, it makes no sense, but also Aaron Wan-Bissaka could have double knee surgery tomorrow, and Ole would probably still wheel him out for the weekend. I mean, he was he was on his knees at the end of last season, and he was just one of those players. Him and Harry Maguire, it was like, nah, son, get back in there. I'm afraid not. I don't know how he had time to impregnate anyone, frankly, but
True, but even so, 100 appearances, in 6 years, and obviously he's played a lot of cup games and stuff. But
it definitely paints a picture. The other little point I would note, and I've mentioned it in previous podcasts, but Shaw came out and had some words to say about our transfer business when we were all feeling very frustrated, and he came out to give the post-match presser after the Spurs game when other notable team leaders decided not to. And leaving aside performances on the pitch, he has credit in the bank for me for those things. I think he's a very good squad member.
Yeah, I thought when I was watching him kind of at the start, I thought him and Tellez were just spending the first 10-15 minutes just trying to get used to each other and just trying to work out who was taking what space.
They were more in each other's pocket as Mbappe and Tuanzebe.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I quite like Shaw in the left-hand side of the back three. I think that's very good. Okay, we may as well talk about Wan-Bissaka since he's in the headline. I'm not sure I want to comment on the social media stuff, so I'll just stick to this game. I thought it was another very good performance from Wan-Bissaka, to be honest with you. I thought some of the tackles he was putting in on their full-back and on the likes of Neymar and Mbappe were excellent. He was keeping up with a lot of them, even going forward. Some of his play still leaves something to be desired, but I thought going forward he was quite promising again. What do you think, Alex? Do you think that was a good performance, or?
I don't know so much about going forward. I don't really feel like he had any notable moments other than a couple of moments of not being sure what to do with it and then not doing a great deal of much of it personally. But defensively, I thought he was really strong. He was tracking runs, he was strong positionally, he made some fantastic last-ditch tackles, and they are, again, the sort of tackles similar to some of the De Gea saves where it does just increase that frustration in the opposition, and he did that really well to both Neymar and Mbappe, and I'm sure got in their heads a little bit. I do think, to be honest, that the big games are the games that suit him, similar to some of the other players. The back five suits him. The fact that we were a bit lopsided when it comes to the back five, and that we were doing a lot of the attacking down Tellez's side, so much so that, if you were to look at a heat map, because we were on the ball a fair amount or attacking a fair amount, you could argue that it looks less like a 5 and more like a 4. It was a 5, but, on the ball maybe more of a 4 because we were concentrating that attacking energy down Tellez's side. But, for him to stay concentrated all game, for him to only have a very small area of focus when it comes to his positional play, for him to not have to worry so much about whether to go or stay, because he is just the right wing back in a 5 rather than the right back in a 4, and there being a little bit of confusion there, I think really suited him and does suit him. So yeah, it was a really strong performance, but I do think he's one of the ones that really benefited from the formation and the opposition, and I think he's had a lot of strong performances against the likes of a PSG, the likes of a City, the likes of Liverpool, and then it's maybe in those games with people breaking and you've got players between the lines and there's confusion between him and Lindelof who to pick up, and there's poor positional play where we should be catching someone offside and he's not there in the line because he's just maybe not focused or concentrated. That's where some of my defensive frustrations come into play with him.
Aaron Wan-Bissaka almost has his own boom-bust cycle where you'll maybe play Newcastle and then Palace and then Brighton and someone else, and you're just thinking this guy is not what we need, because whilst he is individually very good, as Alex has mentioned, positionally and on his own at right back, he can be defensively liable even if he is so good in a one-on-one situation. I think sometimes having that whole right flank to himself and having no right winger, I think a lot of times in games where we don't play 5 at the back, he looks completely busted very quickly because there's such a demand put on him to get up and down that he doesn't seem just able to cope with over 90 minutes like some real, machine-like right backs can. And then you have, the on-the-ball attacking frailties. But then you have a game against City, or you have a game against PSG where he takes Sterling and just wee boys him, or he takes Mbappe and from the first minute is not shy of just launching himself into these frankly inappropriate slide tackles in the box, out of the box, off the pitch, ball's already gone out for a corner, doesn't matter.
The one where he's running back to our goal and I can't remember who it was, but it was like on the edge or just inside the box, he tackles someone from behind, he does get his foot to it and it's a great tackle, but that was the one where I was like, ooh,
heart and mouth, heart in mouth.
But...
And I think he's given away one penalty for us with a mistimed tackle, but it happens actually genuinely so infrequently. It's so impressive, and after those performances, you're like, I don't care if he can't play football to save his life. Just keep doing that. Like, it's class. It just doesn't suit every single game. I mean, he got himself into such a tackling rhythm in that game that in the second half, he was in the opposition box, tried to push it past Krawaza, or however that man's name is said, got absolutely nowhere near it, and then just decided to slide tackle him, for laughs as well. Like, he's in many ways quite a comical footballer. And he was good tonight. It's the game for him. It's coming off a confidence boosting performance against Newcastle. He then has a really good job to do where he doesn't need to just concern himself with his position so much as just run around, putting the boot into players that are world beaters essentially. And that was really amusing and really great to see. It's such a great tool. It's just, I wish we had a different kind of right back. I know a lot of people thought Delô might be that player, and it never really materialised. And I would really look forward to Ethan Laird coming through, because I do think there's other games. I just still don't think he's gonna. I know a lot of people have a lot of faith that if he plays enough for us and gets kind of accustomed and he has more performances like against Newcastle, they'll grow into that role in terms of the attacking side of things. And I still have big reservations about that. But he's an absolute weapon to deploy in certain circumstances.
Can I ask a question of you both?
Yeah, sure.
So dream scenario here. Which one are you choosing? So you can either come on in this game and score the winner for United against Champions League finalist Paris Saint-Germain, or are you coming on and sliding and taking out Neymar?
Taking out Neymar.
Which are you going for?
I'd rather score the goal.
I don't know. It must be so satisfying and rewarding to be just taking him out with ease and winning the ball every time, and him not able to gain the fouls and free kicks that he's looking to do.
Also, I mean, we should mention at the end, but Jamie, please let's rate the performance of the referee at some point during this player rundown.
He's my man of the match. I was waiting for that. Yeah.
He's getting kept till after Ollie. His performance was absolutely fantastic. Like the I have to mention it now because you've spoke about it, but the bit when Neymar just would not shut up and the referee just stopped the game, gave us a drop ball and booked him. I was like, that referee can do whatever he wants for the rest of this game, because. But
he booked him. That was very early in the game, and he booked him after just one word. Like Neymar said one thing, he didn't get the decision. Said one thing, fella just booked him. He shouted at Michael Carrick on the sideline, just told him to go.
It set the tone, and he was very fair.
But he was very fair, and he was something that you don't see that much in modern football anymore. And I think unfortunately there was. almost fouls, a lot of almost fouls, and even more so in the European game than in what we see in the Premier League, although I think there's been a kind of middling off of that. I think back to the Nani red card against Real, although it probably was a red, but just so many decisions where you just think, in England that's probably not a red, or the game just seems to stop, and so many of these continental teams really milk that, and you saw Di Maria and Neymar and even Ander Herrera, who I loved a bit, and he did the same thing for us, but just milking these nothing challenges and rolling around, expecting the game to be stopped, expecting the whistle to be gone, falling on the ball and handling it before a foul's actually been given. And this referee just wanted none of it. And how quickly PSG came out of that mold, they basically stopped doing it, because when you reward that behaviour, they just do it and do it and do it and do it. And I hate watching it. Like, it just makes me lose all respect. I mean, Di Maria and Neymar have to be two of the two most unlikable footballers in the world at the moment. And the referee was just fantastic, firm but fair, consistent throughout. I think got nearly every decision right. I know they were claiming for the penalties on Axel and Aaron and stuff like that. They weren't. I think he did not put a foot wrong, and it was just, he just had complete control of that situation. It was class.
Yeah, and it's so rare that we don't say that anymore. I think particularly with VAR, it's so rare that we're really able to say that. But yeah, he was absolutely spot on. It wasn't like it was with VAR in support or VAR overturning decisions or anything like that. He got everything right from the first moment, and he settled his stall very early on. And I would actually say that some of those almost fouls these days probably would be fouls in the Premier League. I think the Prem has become a lot more stop-start.
But from a referee, all you want is consistency. This is why I didn't want VAR. One referee can make a different decision to another referee, and they're both correct, provided they're consistent across the 90 minutes. If you're saying, I think these 50-50 duels are okay, I want this game to be a physical game, as long as you referee consistently and there's no dangerous play and harmful play, then that's fine. It just has to be consistent. But it's been neutered a bit now, and we don't really get that anymore.
No, yeah, the referee had a very, very good game, and it's a shame, that it seems to be few and far between whenever you watch football at the moment that you actually notice that the referee's having a good game. But
it makes such a difference. Today today it felt, like I said earlier, that there were ebb and flows of the game where maybe they had a bit more possession and a few more chances than we would like. But for the most part, it felt like we were in control. But you have to think, if we were, if some of those almost fouls were giving us fouls, which under another ref they definitely could have been, maybe we would have been giving that territory up a lot more easily. Maybe we would have been playing into PSG's hand. Maybe a few more of our players get cards and then have to, be on eggshells for the rest of the game. And I think, the ref's performance can have a huge influence and impact on how a game goes. And it was great stuff. And I think really suited us, to be honest. I think that helped us a lot.
Big time.
Yeah, all you ask for at the end of the day, as Colm says, is consistency. If you get the consistency, you tend to be fine with it. And
unless it's consistently shit, like some of our defenders. But yeah,
you do like to see the referee try to give the game a chance to flow. And as you said, they were almost fouls. They weren't fouls, really. They were almost fouls. And seeing them being let go made it a much more exciting game for me anyway. I thought, this is what you want to be watching. This is what helps make a game of football enjoyable to watch. So, yeah, good performance from the ref. Colm, you said about a different type of right back you would like to see. We've certainly got a different type of left back in Tellez. I would play him every week, considering he can actually take a corner.
I mean, corners worth 10 million alone. Probably better corners than Charlie Adam, worth 15 million, 20 million. I think he looked class. I thought at the start he was doing all the right things, but was just a little bit nervy, wanted to maybe do a wee bit too much, or the passes just weren't quite there. But it didn't really bother me, because everything was the right thing. And he was really combative, really happy to get stuck in, quite a physical presence, more so than I expected. And I mean, that left foot is just a tin opener. It's frightening. The first three corners were all just whipped as if they're going out of the box and just flying back in. McTominay, we suddenly looked so threatening, and that was without, a slab head on the pitch, who's our go-to guys in terms of corners. But I think long gone are the days of lofting that 40-foot ball to the back post for Maguire to head back across or something like we were trying to at some stages last year. Really, really beneficial. A lot of nice deep crosses for players to come in on the back of. I expect Rashford and Greenwood to get a lot of joy from that kind of play moving forward. And I thought he looked absolutely class. He looked absolutely busted by the time he came off, and it was definitely the correct sub, although an interesting sub to switch formation with Pogba, and we'll get to that later. But as a debut, I was buzzing, absolutely buzzing, delighted. I watched Reguilon be very good for Spurs, and I was a little bit upset about that, although I still think we were absolutely right to make the decisions we made with regards to what Real Madrid wanted. But Tellez, it looks like we're getting a player who is in his prime, who has extremely good experience and just such a good left foot. That kind of ability to take really average crosses, good runs make good crosses, but the ball has to be in the right place, and he will put it in the right place with the right pace. I think he'll complement Bruno extremely well, though the two seem to have a bit of a fiery relationship I've seen so far. But I just think he looks class, and he's a bit of a god as well. He's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, best looking left back since Daley Blind, right?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen Daley Blind now? His hair's like racing off the back of his head. Lovely fella, though.
Oh,
Great footballer.
Yeah, I thought he looked great. I mean, the thing is that I think since we started this, me and Colm started this podcast, 6-7 years ago now.
Woo!
We've invested the fullbacks that we've got and the lack of balance that it brings, the lack of option, how easy it is to defend against us because of our inability to, use that out ball that is a fullback and then create dangerous situations from them. And also, it just becomes incredibly easy for a team when they can just let certain players have the ball, that they just funnel the ball in that direction and then leave those players to it. I remember Germany in the World Cup laying Matthew Upson, the English centre-back, just take your time, mate, do whatever you want with it. We're not worried. You can keep the ball. Yeah, don't worry about that. And it feels like that's what happens with our fullbacks. And just having one, can make a huge difference, because it does enable us to have, in a lot of games, a right back who is a little less adventurous, and also even when he is going forward, just not the most efficient. It does allow for that, and I think we saw today that yes, it was a back five, but it was a lopsided back five, in that we would tuck in, Shaw would move over to the left, everyone would sort of move across, and Tellez was able to get forward, and that was really nice to see. I
was really impressed. I'm really excited to see more from him, and it looks good.
And it's great selection headache for Ole. What he does with Shaw and Tellez, and also I think just for the upcoming game, based on the performances today, maybe we can get into that a bit more later. But it's a nice problem to have, I think.
I would like to see him definitely see in the games where we're maybe playing against the teams that are going to sit back and sit in, and as you said, it makes such a massive difference having a fullback who can actually get up the pitch and just put a wicked cross in, just cause a bit of damage in the opposition box. I mean, you could see it every time he took a corner. It was chaos in the PSG box. They hadn't a clue how to deal with it. They just could not deal with it. Every single ball was either straight onto McTominay, straight onto Fred, straight onto Martial. It was onto somebody's head, and it was making a chance every single time. And you honestly can't underscore enough just how important it is having someone with a delivery like that.
Maguire, top scorer this season. You heard it here first. Put your money on it.
I think it if you introduce Edison Cavani into that equation, I think that would be, I was watching that game today thinking both these teams would value from Cavani starting for them tonight. I'm sure they would both wish they had him, because PSG had a lot of balls being slid in around our 6-yard box that no one seemed interested in trying to get on the end of, and we too had a lot of good crosses from corners, from out wide going in, and it just, Martial's, we'll get on to him, I'm not criticising him here, but we sometimes do lack that kind of fox in the box, and you could see a lot of those partnerships starting to pick up, and us being able to play it in a little bit of a different way than we've seen over the last few years.
Me too. I'm looking forward to see how that develops. Right, we need to talk about Mick Fred, because these two guys just remind me of something that you would see in Power Rangers, where two individual robots join together, become a massive robot, and fight the Power Rangers. I was like, these guys together are just unbeatable, man. It's just it's like a shield that is just sitting in front of that back four, breaks everything up. I can't believe a Scotsman and a Brazilian can play that well together, because how do they know what each other's saying? But Colm, what did you make of the performance of Mick Fred?
Absolutely awesome. It was really interesting to hear Ole speak during the week, and he was speaking about partnerships, and that certain players, they had kind of defined partnerships, that these two players play together and these two players play together. So it seems to be Matic and Pogba, Fred and McTominay, and they have those different games and different skill sets that kind of help Ole in different situations, and that's cool to see. It's quite obvious, but it is recognisable. I do think there's still a secret to be found that is the absolute best midfield for us. I think we're still trying to meander through that and find out exactly what it is for 90% of our games. And that's a tough question, don't get me wrong, because it's so hard to pick between them. I looked, at the Newcastle game, I thought they were both extremely good. And, McTominay had something like 6 tackles and 4 interceptions. Fred had 8 tackles and 8 interceptions, something crazy like that. I do think Fred, productivity-wise, looks a lot better. Certainly today, his passing was up in the 90%. McTominay is down in the 70s, although I just think they try different passes as well. And I almost don't feel the need to do that because they both do such a brilliant job. McTominay offers a bit more early and physically in general. But like Fred's... I'm coming around to the idea that Fred is just the key. And he just needs to be played and played and played and played. Before lockdown, he was the shining light in this team. He was the one who'd had the breakout season. He was the one that was knitting everything together. He was putting up these crazy numbers in terms of looking like, an Ndidi or a Kante, but also with a much more on-the-ball quality in terms of his metronomic ability to really whip the ball around, which I think is really missed when he's not on the pitch, because Matic and Pogba and McTominay, I don't think any of them really do it as well as he does in terms of buzzing about, picking it up and moving around quickly. But the sheer work that man gets through, I mean, his tank is limitless. He just is buzzing around, constantly breaking up play. He reads the game so well, so when we do play that high line, when we start to play on the front foot more now these days with the Brunos and the attacking threat that we carry, he's really good at just reading, buzzing in, making that tackle. He always leads the interceptions and he screens that back four so much. So I'm inclined to give the nod to him in that partnership in terms of who I think is the guy. And I really think he could be it. And I think he just needs a bit more faith. We still see these odd performances from him. We still see these errant passes and sometimes just a bit of a difficult game.
But only when he's been brought in on the odd game, which whenever he's been given a run of games, he's proven himself to be incredibly consistent.
And I think you can trust him. I used to think he couldn't be trusted on his own. And now I think actually everyone just get away from him and just give him that kind of middle in front of the back four part of the pitch, because he's just so industrious and so good. I'm a big, big fan of McTominay. I think he will grow into a very, very good player for us. Always super diligent in his work, great ethic, great physical abilities. And like for him to get that yellow, I think, was it in the sort of latter part of the first half?
It was the 40th minute or so.
Yeah. And I was certain he was going to be subbed off for Matic. Now, obviously, the game changed in different ways, and I think if we had stayed 1-0 up, that probably would have happened. But for him to manage that game for the rest through the 90, with Mbappe running through on him, with Neymar breaking away, and still be able to stick with and be combative, but be sensible enough not to put in the kind of challenge that led to the yellow, while still making tackles and interceptions and being a physical presence, speaks to the maturity that he's gaining, I think, as a United player, and also through his time with Scotland playing at centre-back. Both of them deserve immense credit, and they become undroppable at this point, I think, or certainly I think one of them has to be there. I think that for me is a given. At the moment for me it'd be Fred, but if it was McTominay, I wouldn't bat an eyelid. I think it has to be one of them in the middle of the park, if not them two together. Maybe they are just the best actual partnership for functionality, if not on paper.
He plays the same in defence as he does in attack, you're right, and that he basically just buzzes around in defence. He's a little terrier, snapping at people's heels, very quick on the press, does it intelligently though, I would say, and then like you say, recycles possession, moving it from left to right incredibly well, and just also being an option at all, almost all the time, that it always feels like we've got that man and no one seems isolated, because I do think that when you've got the likes of Matic and Pogba, who, let's be fair, aren't the most mobile players, it just feels like our fullbacks and our wide forwards are getting the ball and then don't always have an easy option for what to do with it. And then, they're forced to go down a tunnel of what they do, and they're limited in their options, and that makes it easy to defend against them. And Fred's always there. And I mean, today in terms of combined tackles and interceptions, he was, a leading player, and then not the leading player for amounts of passes, but for pass accuracy, it was 90%. I know that's Nick's favourite stat, and it's not always the most telling stat. But in a game like this, where it's important to not be giving the ball away, the likes of McTominay and Fernandez were more like 70, 75, and Fred was 90 plus. Just recycling possession very well, and at the end of the game, bringing it out smartly.
Exactly that. So just to continue on the Fred loving, like those stats paint a picture of an extremely good performance, but also there was these, you pick it up on the edge of the box and a quick little turn of feet to sort of beat a player and then walk it out. He was the player bringing it out more often than not when we were transitioning and breaking, and he was actually carrying the ball up the pitch and then sliding in Bruno or anyone else. And like that's just such a well-rounded performance. For me, he was man of the match by a distance. I think Jamie said he would give it to Axel, and I understand that for the the magnitude of what he did as such a young player. But for me, it was Fred every day of the week and twice on Sundays. The only thing I would say is those kind of open basketball style, fractured and spacious games absolutely suit both those players down to a T. The difficulty comes when we are more compressed, when we're playing a team in a low block or something like that. And I think, that just becomes a coachability thing. They just need to be given their role and told to stick to it and not really just work in that area of the pitch and just don't worry about anything else. And then trust the rest of the team to say, look, fellas, they have that. You don't need to go back there and help out, and put that little bit more trust in them in those instances to say, see this sort of gap between the centre backs and the midfield. You dominate that. See, when we have the ball, you push up, and any errant ball, that's yours. And everyone else, ahead of you, don't worry about it, just feed them the ball and that's it. And I think we often play with two players to do that role, and I don't think we need to. I think we have the players like Fred who are capable of doing that essentially on their own in those games, and I think the risk would be worth the reward, but they need to be freed up in that.
I think with Fred, you're kind of right to say that he's one of the guys that I think he just makes us tick just that wee bit more. Yeah, sure, there's parts of his game that can still improve, but I just like watching him. I just like watching his boundless energy. As far as I'm concerned, he's the heir apparent to 3 Long Parc. We've not had somebody like that for a long time, but he just everywhere on the pitch. McTominay, I've kind of commented on it at the weekend and before that. He's been very good for Scotland in the last few games, and giving him that role with Scotland on the right hand side of a back three, it's already, I think, just giving him just a bit more nous, a bit more intelligence in his game. Like, you could see parts tonight, he was just dropping slightly to that right hand side just whenever Mbappe went over to that side, or Neymar, or both of them were over on that side. He would just go over just to screen just a little bit more, just to add that more defensive solidity in front of the back four. And I think, honestly, the performances, and I can't see him not continuing to do that for Scotland, and I think genuinely going forward that's just going to help him in terms of understanding his role if he does become, say, a defensive midfielder or whatever for Man United. I just think he's improving all the time, and it's exciting to see.
Yeah, you can always trust him to do a job. Can I just offer an alternative to the McFred name? Because I quite like Scott Fred. Just first name and last name in it.
That's going to be a hard pass from me, I'm afraid.
Scott McFred not doing it for you?
Yeah.
Just McFred, I think. I like that. I like that short and sweet name for both of them. I think it's excellent.
Scad. Frot.
But captain for tonight was the mighty Bruno. I think we've all seen his reaction video from the press conference when Solskjaer named him as captain. And he acted quite surprised. That gave me a giggle yesterday. Yeah, I found that quite funny.
Like a school kid, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Nice.
It was very funny, yeah. But Alex, what did you make of Bruno's performance tonight?
I really liked. I thought it was a captain's performance. Obviously, I think we can just start straight away with that penalty. Obviously, he'd scored 19 in a row, and he hadn't missed one for United. And at the weekend, he stepped up and missed, and we saw that it did impact his game a little bit. And obviously tonight he's stepped up, he's missed. Well, at least the penalty was saved. It was a good save from Navas. He come off his line. They're the rules, but I'm not so convinced that had he stayed on his line or kept a foot on his line that he might not have saved it anyway, to be honest, because I just, maybe it wasn't just the best penalty. And I think, a lot of the time you can say that with penalties where, it looks too close to the keeper, but if the keeper dives the other way, it's a great penalty, right? And that's kind of, the curse of being a penalty taker. But to then, no questions about it, you knew that he would just take it again. Obviously Crystal Palace had to retake that penalty against United recently with De Gea coming off his line. They swapped the penalty taker. I think a lot of teams and a lot of players would, particularly after missing one at the weekend, and in such an important game. But I had no doubts that he would take it again, and I was convinced that he would score it because that's the sort of mentality and winning mentality that he has. And then beyond that, I thought he was really good. Naturally, with Bruno, he always perhaps gives the ball away a little bit more than you would like. But I actually thought today there was less from him when it came to going for the jugular, which I think in a counter-attacking game like this, you might have expected a bit more of. In the second half, as he got a little bit more tired because he'd put in a huge amount of work, like we call Fred a terrier, Bruno is definitely up there for pressing and nipping at people's heels and winning the ball back and tracking back. And again, he did that today. But as he does start to tire, I think you do maybe see more of those slight Hollywood type balls. And I think the second half, some of his play did start to wear, but he was putting such a shift in and was providing huge value to the team, just in that he was he just takes responsibility and accountability, never shies away. And that's what I love about him. And I thought it was a worthy performance of the armband. I think he definitely looks like he has that in him to be a captain. I think we'd seen and we'd heard very much about that. And I think one of the things I've liked most about this week and this game was I think Colm, you kind of referred to it earlier with the Tellez Fernandez thing. There was this clip in training. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but Bruno Tellez is only a week into the team, if that, and he was on his back, in a casual training game that he wasn't doing whatever he needed to do to a high enough standard. And I think that just shows that he expects a lot from everyone on the team, and he doesn't let anyone get away with anything. And I think that's what you need. I think that's something that we've been lacking. And I thought he was great, and fair play to him. Let's try and avoid bleepers this week. Fair play to him for taking that penalty again and sticking it in the back of the net. Yeah. And also 75 touches. What time did he come off the pitch today? Was it? It was quite late, wasn't it? But
pretty much everything went through him.
I think it was immediately after the goal.
Okay, well he had 75 touches today. The next was Fred and McTominay with 52 and 53. It's just that's literally almost a 50%. Well, it's a 50% increase on what the second most involved player was from a touches perspective, which just shows you, like I say, he wasn't shying away. He was just taking on that responsibility. And I thought he was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed his performance.
Colm, what's your thoughts on Bruno?
I think just fair fucks to him, basically. That's.
You did. You're not going for the bleeps. You're going for the bleeps.
I'm off the deep end with Bruno, and I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it because I think everything Alex said was absolutely spot on. I just think it's funny that after years of sideways zombie passing, such a lack of incision that we've had, at this club for so long, that now people, when they see Bruno, go, he's gives the ball away a bit much, doesn't he? And I just think, the grass is truly always greener, and we'll never appreciate what we have. For me, the personality of him and just his willingness to always take it on himself, always try, not take it on himself in a selfish way, but to take that responsibility and never shy away from taking a shot. If he plays 3 bad balls and has 2 bad shots, the next one he'll still think he's putting in the top corner. And I just love that mentality. He has such an earnest, honest, hardworking, but with quality, with everything that he does about him. I just think he's been brilliant, and I think he'd only become more impactful. I loved Solskjaer giving him the nod for captain when it would have been very easy to give it to Gea, and almost a risk to slight to Gea. So I thought that was really interesting and really good. And I can only assume that's because everyone in the dressing room sees what he brings and feels that energy that he has. Jamie, you touched on it in the last pod about him coming down and squashing those rumours around, a bit of discontent or a bit of unhappiness within the tactics or with Ole and stuff like that, and he just straight away put it to bed, unlike others. And it just ticks every box for me. I can't fault him, even when he gives the ball away, and even when he tries things that are a bit silly, or even when he's a bit rash. I just think he's so good, and such a unique footballer in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely love him. Like, everything about him, from his leadership qualities to
his big ears.
Yeah. But
he looks like the Champions League trophy, I think.
A little bit. I think that's a bit unfair. But no, I just love that he takes a risk, because, as you say, I'm fed up watching players just pass the ball sideways and safe and never wanting to take a risk. I love that he tries to take the risk. Darren Fletcher also said at half-time on BT Sport, when he was asked about the penalty, Fletch said, it's Cantona or Ronaldo-esque. He misses the penalty, we get to retake it, there was absolutely no doubt at all who's taking the retake. It's Bruno.
And there's no one I wanted. There was no doubt in my mind. Like, he'd missed 2 penalties, but as Alex said, they're not bad penalties. He's got them on target, well on target, 2 good saves. But that could eat into a player's mind. And you see him pick up the ball, and I don't know if it was Rashford or Martial, I assume, but you can just see him, waving his finger to say, no, look, it's absolutely fine. I'll just go and do it again. And then puts it in exactly the same way, in exactly the same place. And I had no doubt. Like, even if he missed another one, I'd still want him to take every single penalty after that, I'm wondering how many he'd have to miss in a row before I thought maybe he should stop taking them, because he just isn't affected by things, with it. And this isn't a criticism on them, but we've seen Rashford and Martial both score big penalties and miss big penalties, and you just never felt, you were always wondering what you were going to get. And with Bruno, it's always going on target, and it's always going to be pretty good, and I would back him. I would keep giving him the ball.
I would as well, to be fair. And yeah, I thought it was a worthy captain's performance, and yeah, if that becomes a long-term thing, I think that would be great, and I'm all for it. Finally, we get to Martial and we get to Rashford, the front two for tonight. Personally, I know Martial contributed with winning the penalty. I thought he done well for turning the defender. The defender made a very stupid tackle in the box. He wins the penalty, but I don't know, I just thought Martial was a bit poor tonight. I don't know if it was maybe the lack of game time for United or something else, but I just wasn't that impressed with him. I thought it was a poor game. But Rashford, I know he rushed a couple of chances, especially in the second half, where he maybe made the wrong decision, like the one where he was running through, and I think it's Martial's on the far side, and it's just a wayward pass that he overhits and goes beyond him, so he's too far wide. And then another chance where he runs in the box, and it's a poor square pass that he plays, and we end up losing possession from that. But the finish right at the end, to score a goal at the end like that, it's just incredible. It's brilliant from Marcus, absolutely quality. Alex, what did you make of the front two?
Yeah, so similar, to be honest. I mean, Martial, I just feel like he hasn't really got into gear this season yet. Like, he's just not, I just don't think he's quite there, quite with it. I do think he's one of those players who can sometimes take a little bit of time to be comfortable and confident. And when he's in that form and in that frame of mind, he's somewhat unstoppable. But he isn't the sort of player who, I mean, there are games in the past where he's done very little and then come up with a goal, admittedly, which you can kind of see today with a penalty, I guess, where he does still contribute. But it's always felt like he's got that game in him. What I would say is that today he was still running and trying and looking to press, and
there was some really good hold up play.
Yeah, exactly. He was tidy, and that to me, like, if you're not on your game, which I think for an attacking play that just happens. It happens sometimes, particularly when you just haven't got into gear with the season yet. Particularly, after that red at Spurs and then missing the last game, and I think he's had like quite a. With France, I think he was pulled off quite early one game. I'm not sure if there was an injury or whatever else. But anyway, that happens. And when that happens, you've got to then just make sure that you're solid in terms of your basics. And for the most part, he was. Maybe a few poor decisions when it came to the final third. But, his hold-up play, the runs he was making, the effort he was putting in to press and to tackle, to defend from the front was really good. I do think that he's one of those players. He's really enjoyed taking that central spot, and I don't think he necessarily likes sharing it, and he's not really sure what to do with himself when he's not playing the focal point or the left-hand side. So I did wonder about where he was positioning himself a few times, but otherwise it wasn't a terrible performance. It wasn't a good performance. It was pretty poor, but at the same time, at least he was somewhat tidy and trying and doing the things that I would ask of a striker who's not, playing to the best of their ability. On Rashford, yeah, some poor decisions, but what a goal! And that's what was his last Champions League goal. It would have been, right, because we
PSG
Europa League last year, so yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be right. Yeah,
But yeah, he obviously just loves that city, and he's feeding things everywhere he goes now. He's great, love him, and just fantastic. I couldn't do anything with that.
No, it's
yeah,
fine.
he was great.
I think actually, I thought Martial was pretty decent. Actually, I thought his hold-up play has been underrated there. I thought he held it extremely well on numerous occasions, brought other players in, and was really tidy in his kind of distribution. I think just classically with Martial is if we don't put him in certain positions, you never really are going to see anything else, But if we do, he'll kind of explode and make the most of those positions. And those numerous occasions where Rashford or Bruno could have put him in those positions and we've kind of failed to, we really squandered a lot of very good positions, and the ball that final ball was never there for him. It never got to him.
Well, he also, you can't, he did obviously give the goal away as well.
That's what I was about to say. One thing neither you touched on, I think that is criminal, that near post effort. He is no longer a person I would want anywhere near the front post. He jumps, he should just head it away very comfortably. He closes his eyes and tilts his head back, and suddenly a ball that should be headed out of the box goes the opposite way into the top corner. And then 2 minutes later, he has a near enough free header in the opposition box and sticks it over. That was a very frustrating passage of play, for me. And although I've just defended him and said I thought he was pretty decent overall, that was criminal. Luckily, it didn't matter. On Rashford, I thought this against Newcastle in the absence of Martial, he really, really stepped up. He's been kind of relegated to not even relegated, but he's found a different role, more of a playmaking role off the left, sometimes in and out of games. And in leading the line against Newcastle, I thought he really, after a really poor start to the season, I think he sort of put us on our back a little bit. And with Marcus, that doesn't always go that well because he tries to do too much and the bad decision making comes out, a lot of kind of poor efforts or bad decisions. And we saw the same again tonight, but the effort was there. The kind of passion and the running and the putting defenders in difficult positions just by his physical attributes, and then eventually one comes off. I thought there was several that he should have done so much better with, but to then keep going and have that ability and to score that goal, that is a goal that we'll see again and again, just hitting that kind of post into the net, just unsavable really, and just breezing past Danilo, who had a tough game, was made to look pretty statuesque on a number of occasions, and that was absolutely epic. And it's really nice, I think, for him because he does sometimes struggle. He has had this issue with his back thing and occasionally looks a very forlorn figure. But you can see that kind of drive and kind of raw ability that we saw when he kind of burst out onto the scene that I think has gone missing for a little while, or has kind of changed and developed as he's grown and his game has kind of been shifted out to the left, was still there when it needs to be. And it was absolutely class to see him. Big fan of Marcus.
In fairness, there was a shift in his role and what's expected of him, but also, there was a long stint out. There was then recovering from an injury. He was playing through various injuries and pain and whatnot. So, and I think the output that he still had during that period.
I still think he's absolutely best off the left. I just think he could play more like he's played the last two games, but off the left. Sometimes I think he hides a little bit in the left, and again, that's down to the injury and that's down to a lot of things, but he was seeking everything out these last two games. He was saying, I'm going to be the guy who does it. I'm going to take the shot on. I'm going to be a wee bit selfish. I'm going to show for it. I'm going to make that run. And I'm going to take on players when I have the ball at my feet. And sometimes off the left, you don't see that same impetus from him that we've seen over the last two games. And that's the thing I want to stay in his game when he goes back to playing on the left.
Well, he's MBFing E now, right? So he's got to be stepping up. Yeah. Can no longer shy away from the limelight. QE is watching.
The impetus, as you say, I hope it stays with him, because when he plays how he did on Saturday and when he scores goals like he did at the end of the game tonight, he's an excellent player. So I just hope that continues for a long time. Before we go on to Ollie, we brought Pogba on. That was kind of an interesting sub. We brought Pogba on for Tellez, and then we seemed to shift formation a wee bit and go four at the back. I thought Pogba was alright, actually, in his little cameo. Slowed the ball down when he needed to, picked it up again. Some nice passes, gave the ball away a couple of times, which I've come to accept is going to be in Pogba's game when he plays. But overall, I thought it was a decent cameo. What were your guys' thoughts, Alex?
You always come to me first. He's really not.
I feel really hard done by.
I've counted. I think I've came to Colm.
You've been writing it down
5 times, and then I've came to Alex 7 times.
Well, there you go. It should have been 6-6, right?
The listeners will be thankful.
I thought he had a good cameo. There were a couple of times where he gave the ball away, as you said, kind of expected with Pogba, but also it felt like it was just so unnecessary, and that's when it really annoys me. There was that one moment where he just kind of stopped it for no reason. He's trapped it under his foot, and then he doesn't really do anything with it, and then they just take it off, and it's like, what are you doing? They just those moments that's like worth 4 or 5 of Bruno's giveaways to me. Like they just really annoy me and really anger me. But otherwise, I thought it was a good cameo. I feel like he just doesn't really shoot anymore. Like that's one thing that I find a bit strange. There are moments where it feels like he could shoot, and we know that he's got a shot in him, or at least he used to, and he'll then like roll his foot over the ball or pass it to someone else. And I'd just like to see him. I'd like to see him shoot a little bit more in those. And I appreciate maybe today you could say he was doing the right thing. He was keeping it tidy, but in some of those moments we were still in need of a goal. And I would have liked to see him hit some because they weren't outrageous. 40-yarders. They were edge of the box and he had a bit of space. But anyway, otherwise I thought it was a good cameo. Actually, he was running. Pogba was running, which was interesting, good to see. I wasn't convinced by the sub when it happened, but I actually think, by the end of the game, and obviously maybe this changes if Rashford doesn't get that goal, but he did, it feels like it was the right sub, especially with a lack of other subs.
I think it's why he got that goal. The whole momentum changed with that substitution. I think huge credit has to go away, which I'm sure we'll touch on in his part. As for Pogba, how demoralising must it be to play a good Manchester United team who are playing extremely well, and then with 20 minutes to go, Paul Pogba comes on? Like that's got to be tough to take in terms of
it sends a message about our focus and what we intend to do with that game, that we're not settled for it, because it would have been very easy at 1-1 to just say, you know what, this is good enough. We played well here. Yeah, exactly. These are a big scary team. Let's stick with what we have. And sometimes I would have thought that's the route Ole would have went down. So immense credit. I think when he was on the pitch, Pogba, you immediately see he's just class of football. Like he comes straight on. He's wanting to be involved. Touches are so sharp. He's able to beat men. He's able to be strong. He's able to turn players. And you just wanted to be like that all the time. He was playing a lot higher, which suits him, which was brilliant. But it remains to be seen if we see him against Chelsea. I think we will, and how he reacts to what effectively being dropped 2 games in a row. I think there's no other way to look at it, and how Ole is managing that behind the scenes, how Paul's going to react to that, and what we see moving forwards. I think it's exactly the right stance to take. I hope it encourages just some things to be eked out of his game and his effort levels to come up a little, and then I think we'll be in really good shape, and we'll see how it goes with Pogba. It's a bit of a circus still. Yeah,
hopefully, as you said, that does give him a kick up the backside a wee bit, the fact that he hasn't started the last 2 games. But yeah, I thought it was a decent cameo tonight. Van de Beek and James, we didn't manage to get to see too much of them tonight. Colm, you did mention to me before that James ran about a lot.
Throwing you a little bone there, Colm.
I feel good about it. He was just buzzing about. He was keen. When they both came on silence, Van de Beek was like celebrating when he came on for the substitution. It was all like high fives and happy as Larry. Everyone seemed to be in the moment, and a bit of effort from James. Fair enough. I don't know if he had a touch, and I couldn't say anything more about either of them, other than I really hope we see Van der Beek more on the pitch soon, because I'm starting to feel a little bad for him. I'd
actually thought he might have started tonight, Van der Beek. But I am hoping, same as you, that we do get to see a little bit more of them shortly. Alex, what did you make of VDB and James?
I've got nothing to say on either of them. They came on apparently, pretty much it. Yeah.
Fair enough. Right, finally, we've got to go to the manager. Colm, I'll just come to you straight away, so that evens everything up between the two of you. But what do you make of Ollie tonight?
I said at the top of the show, this for me is a hallmark performance in that whilst we've had results like this before, they've been kind of on a knife edge or on a zip wire. They've been fraught with danger. They haven't always been very convincing. It's always felt a bit like a robbery sometimes, like a smash and grab on the counter and stuff like that. And whilst we did play really well on the counter this evening, it all just felt a lot better. I don't think PSG were at their best by any means, but that really impressed me. That the setup was perfect. I think we all saw the 5 at the back coming, but it still went extremely well. Everyone was absolutely committed to the cause, and the credit has to go to Ole for that. I think some big decisions in terms of playing Axel when he could have played maybe McTominay in the back 3 or someone else. He could have brought in Pogba or Matic. I thought certainly one of them would start. So a lot of big decisions that went absolutely right for him. And then also I thought the in-game management was absolutely bang on. That's easy to say when you maybe fortunately win 2-1 or whatever else, but the sub to change the system, to change the shape at a time when PSG were really, really, really coming on to us by taking off left wing back and putting on, a centre midfielder, was just, I actually think, inspired, to be honest. I think that's something we haven't necessarily seen, which is changing shape in the middle of a game and kind of making that really attacking substitution to flip the momentum of the game, which is a lot easier said than done. It's very easy to say, oh, that's a really good idea, and sure, that'll definitely happen, but it takes a parabolics to really do it, and to have that work out in the way that he wanted to was absolutely fantastic. So in-game management has been a gripe of a lot of us on the podcast. Leaving substitutions too late and not reacting to in-game situations has been a bit of a flaw. And tonight you couldn't say that in any way, shape or form. It was fantastic, and it all went right for him. So really, really hopefully this provides a bit of impetus to kick on into a very difficult schedule. But I mean, there's no better way to kick off this run of difficult games, and Ole deserves immense credit for that, immense credit for the way he's managed certain personalities and maybe the bad vibe that was around the club lately. And I think he's hopefully on the way to turn that around and turn that into really positive momentum, which a result like this can do for you.
Yeah, Bruno captain, playing Tellez, back five, dropping, keeping Pogba on the bench, not starting Van der Beek, sticking with and rewarding the performance of Fred and McTominay. And if you think about it, the goal that we conceded was because of a really poor error made by our centre forward, an own goal that, is completely unforeseen. And whilst De Gea made some good saves, there was no heroics in that game at either end. There was no individual brilliance. No. And that, it was a solid performance from every player, but all they were doing was what was expected of them and what they were told to do, and they were following his instruction. We had a plan, we implemented that plan, and it wasn't a lucky win or a plucky win. There was no element of us acting the underdog either. For me, yes, we dropped a bit deeper, and yes, we had five at the back, but like I said, you look at a heat map, because we were pressing and getting forward, you could argue that, a lot of the time we spent with Tellez so high up the pitch, it was a 4. And, when we were putting them under pressure, we were dictating the game. And for me, we were comfortable with how the game was going at almost all times. And the one time that we weren't, as Colm said, we reacted to it, and he didn't overreact as he never does, to be fair. He's always a bit slow with his substitutions, but he made the right sub at the right time, and it was the right person. And then he held onto those other two subs. And I genuinely, I don't think there's any criticism that can be laid at him. The whole build-up, the starting 11, the in-game management, the plan, the tactics and everything else was fantastic. And whilst PSG had some players out, their big names were still there, and it was still an incredibly strong team. To come out of that game, deserved winners. And like you say, kick this difficult run off. It's great. So fair play to him. Really, really happy for him. Really pleased. There's a couple of times now that he's turned around, what looked like it could spiral, and I think the other two times it maybe did spiral before he really got it under control, and he's nipped what could have been, a really poor, start to this season. That could have really spiraled with this run that we've got, and he's managed to nip that in the bud. And in 2 performances, I think get things back on track very, very quickly, especially to do that post-mortem of what many would consider a pretty poor transfer window. He deserves a lot of credit for. So no complaints, only positives to say about it.
Yeah, I echo everything that you guys have just said. I thought from the selection, the formation, the in-game management, I thought tonight was first class. Other than a couple of De Gea saves, don't really remember any time we were threatened. And as you say, Alex, it was an own goal. It wasn't any glaring error from a management or formation or selection point of view. It was just one of those things that sometimes happens when a player makes a mistake. So Ole in for another week anyway. To see what happens against Chelsea. But I have actually just read a stat that Man United have won 10 consecutive away games in all competitions for the first time in their history.
Nice. Obviously, away means a lot less than ever before now, to be fair. Yeah. But still,
Yeah. So I think that means come Saturday we're going to battle Chelsea, aren't we? 4-0. Easy.
I hope so.
He's got some real selection headaches. Like, I'm not sure what his team's going to be.
I mean, I think it has to be 5 at the back again. It's just who you pair up. I think Maguire probably comes back in probably Axel drops out, although that'll be harsh on him, but I think it's probably still the right decision. Other than that, the back line.
I think he might drop Tellez, to be honest, and move Shaw to the left. And
Possibly.
Maguire, Lindelof, and Tuanzebe, maybe.
I mean, he might go forward to back. He might go back to 4-2-3-1, but I think that would be a shame against Chelsea, because I think if we can keep it tight, we will have lots of chances against their back line. It's just, can we minimise the goals we concede? I think it's going to be a shootout, and I think it's a very winnable game for us.
I agree. I actually think we should keep the same formation as tonight. I would try and minimise the amount of changes we make also, but I think maybe bringing Tellez out, move Shaw, Cross, and...
Well, what about obviously Martial isn't playing, so you're saying Cavani replaces him or Bruno moves up, or are you saying, is that where we then think about formation change?
That's a fair point.
I don't know, actually. I wouldn't mind trying to see Cavani.
It's a bit of a start though, isn't it?
Well, you have to start against someone. Cavani fears no one or nothing.
Alex, who was your man of the match, by the way? Because I went for Tuanzebe, Colm went
the ref.
for Fred.
The ref, yeah, it was the ref. Now, I think Bruno would maybe been Fred otherwise, because I do think he was fantastic. But I think Bruno was what drove us and drove that game forward. And I think without him, I think that game looks wildly different without Bruno in that team. So I would give it to Bruno.
Right, fair enough.
It's nice to have 3 different choices though for man of the match. I think that tells you a lot.
Yeah, it tells you it was a good performance. Yeah, and there was lots of good performances all the way around, and any number of players could have been picked, really. So let's hope the players keep that momentum going into Saturday. We'll just do a quick one. What are your guys' thoughts for the Chelsea game? I was joking with 4-0. I think it'll be 3-0. But
I think it could be like 3-1. Yeah, I think we'll cause them.
It could be
problems.
Anything that game to me.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be absolutely anything. Anything but 0-0, basically.
Ole's had Lampard's number to a large extent so far. And I like Chelsea. Don't convince me.
There's something about them I'm not convinced by either, so I genuinely think if we play the 5-3-2 or whatever you want to call it, if we play the same way we did tonight, I genuinely think we'll get a lot of joy against Chelsea. I wouldn't try and change a whole lot. Obviously, as you said, Martial will have to come out. Probably one of Tellez or Tuanzebe will probably be pulled out as well. But I would try and minimise the changes, because I think we could really get a good result against Chelsea on Saturday if we do. I'm aware we're dragging on and on. It's meant to be United Hour. We've probably went well over that now. So
final whistle in 5 minutes here, Jimmy.
Yeah, I will. But I was too excited, man. That's what it was. I'm so excited. I just want to keep talking.
We could do this all night.
But yes, we will try and be back after the game on Saturday against Chelsea. So hopefully we have another good result for the guys to talk about at the weekend. So other than that, thanks for listening, and it's good night, troops, from me.
Love you all.
Cheerio.
Well, that was thoroughly enjoyable, guys. Enjoyed that.